Well, John and Joy, such a pleasure to have you here today and just have a conversation that I think can be instructive, enlightening for people who are maybe as professional practice owner couples, in your situation or maybe coming up to your situation and kind of set the stage for what that situation is. Let's kind of uh, walk through, where we first met, but as we are coming up to that, you're both in your let's say latter part of your 50s, right? And you have your solo practice, general practice, Orlando area, and basically you've run out of about four operatories.
Two and two, two for the hygiene and two for me.
Yeah, oh, perfect. Uh, I know that you are a very proficient clinician. You have focused on a practice that certainly serves at a high level. Your capabilities that you've added to your arsenal over the years has allowed you to. I'm just going to say it because you're very humble, but I'm saying the two of you created a very profitable practice that you have again run solo. You haven't had all the associates and all that stuff over these years, and you've been, I think, again, just knowing you, you've been very, uh, conservative. You've lived a great lifestyle, but you're not spendthrifts. So you put money away in a lot of the places that all of us do. Savings and retirement accounts and this and that. And as you were exploring, what is your transition from practice? What does that look like? Let's go there. I know that you have since sold, and we can talk about that. Sold the major portion of your practice, but let's talk about getting there. What was the conversation like? What were you thinking? Was there any compulsion to make things happen faster, or was it just time to consider the options?
Well, Dave, have been in practice in Orlando for, decades, it seems, 29 years in the practice and 31 total through the Air Force. Very traditional practice with just the four operatories, working 4 or 5 days a week. Had a mentorship as a partner for 7 years with Bill Hutchinson. Very good and influential in the thought of actually, saving for retirement and not spending all that we make. And so that was a good start as a young dentist, as an associate first, and then eventually a partner, and later on as a full owner when he retired. But it was all about the 401k. And, as we started to get out of debt and build some funds, we made sure we were always allocating a portion to that 401k. And it was a very traditional thought of, accumulating money and hoping that when we get to the point where we want to retire, we have to retire, that we have enough in there that we can live off those proceeds as they dwindle down. The old 4% rule there was the concept. And so decades of that mindset coming into it. And then as I got into my 50s, probably 3 years ago now, started to consider, what the exit strategy was going to be. And so traditionally, it would have been just like what I did, which was bring in an associate, make sure you're a good fit for a couple years, sell the practice or in parts or whole at that point, or work together for a while. Knowing that the operatories are limited, I would have to cut back hours or sell out completely. And knowing I wasn't quite ready to do a full sale at that point, and also knowing through experiences of owning and selling practices, what happens with associateships. Sometimes they don't always work out, and you hit the reset button for another couple years of finding that right person again. So began to look at alternatives in practice ownership and practice transition that would allow me an open window as far as when I wanted to slow down or retire, to be able to work in my practice, and at the same time, monetize everything that I put together for decades. And so on my drive to work, I drive about 25 minutes, I discovered this world of podcasts. And so with that, I found something called Freedom Founders. And with that, I also found information regarding MB2 Dental, who I partnered with in January of 2024. And what I was looking for there was, if I was going to bring in something other than a traditional sale, I wanted to be able to maintain complete clinical autonomy and not have someone tell me how to practice or change our office model or change our practice management software or start shuffling our staff around. And so as I was beginning to research those options, the list grew very small, and to the top of that list was MB2. And so I partnered with them January 2024, and I partnered with Freedom Founders shortly thereafter. We joined the Catalyst Group, and just to kind of get a sense of what it was all about. And then by May, we were full members. And so we've been enjoying both of those partnerships ever since and have nothing but great things to say about each.
I know that you're maintaining the autonomy, as you said, if you're going to transition, as you said, sell a major portion to MB2 in a partnership model and be still enabled to work out the remainder of I think it's typically about a 5-year contract. Is that correct?
Well, what's interesting here is in my arrangement, there is no contract in terms of how many hours or how many days or how many years I have to work. So again, complete freedom and autonomy there in this partnership that we're working as a win-win to continue to be a profitable practice and be able to do what we always have done and do well at it, at the same time having the background kind of silent partner support of additional resources when it comes to HR, support for buying power when it comes to supplies and equipment at much greater discounts than I could ever get as an individual provider, better rates when it comes to insurances that I could choose to participate, although I'm primarily a fee-for-service practice. And so there are lots of benefits there that we've enjoyed since. And so they've been true to everything that they promised since January 2024 of how it would work. And so again, Joy can say, I know to vouch for what I'm saying, my wife, here that we've had nothing but good things and good experiences there.
Yes, for sure. There's two things too, I think, that he neglected to mention in the history of what would have probably made this decision go in this direction. And one was when he started out working with the practice that he bought into, he also had to start working as an associate in another practice because they're the same scenario that we just said. There's not enough room for 2 people to work in the 4 operatories. So at one point, he was an associate in 2 different offices and ended up actually buying the second office, which wasn't the one that he intended to go in or the one he's in now. So in 2003, we came where we were actually owning 2 practices, which didn't work because now we had one dentist working in 2 places, and that doesn't work. So all that to say, he tried the associate thing there. He tried selling a practice that way there, and the experience was not great, did you say? So wasn't really looking forward to doing that again.
Double everything.
Right. So coming to the end of, close to making decisions on next steps at this practice, that wasn't necessarily our first choice. And then also the fact that I think every time we sat down with a financial planner, which we've actually added it up, we've had 6 over the last 30 years, which tells you something about John maybe and how he likes to do his own thing. But anyway, so over those years, every financial planner, one of the first questions, of course, when they're looking at everything you have and what's going to be there at retirement is, well, here's the X. What is the practice going to be worth? What is that amount that you're going to have for retirement? Well, we could never really answer that question. I mean, you could guess, but that was very uncertain, I guess, in our future. So those 2 things, I think, were leading us towards something different than the traditional path of an associate or selling, and the fact that it's a very small office and it's very hard to do that. So that's my 2 cents.
I appreciate the extra insights, Joy. That's very helpful, and to have the opportunity to just determine, earlier in your career that the associate model was not necessarily one that you had any great experiences. And the fact that Joey already said, John likes to do things his way. And I think knowing who we are as people, as individuals, I think is one of the most important things we can do, and just say, this is who I am. So XYZ other kinds of models probably don't fit me. And that's okay. That's a choice with clarity. I think people, if you can make that at a certain point, that saves a lot of brain damage later down the road. And so that gave you more of a decision-making process that took you to your association, your partnership with MB2. And at this point, you're a year and a half in. And so you can continue to do as you're doing really as long as you want to at this point. I mean, and so you can
That's
decide
right.
at any point in time, let's just, where you are today. And again, I realize that this could change in 6 months, because the nice thing is the two of you have options now. You have options you didn't have before. Right? You've got options to how does that feel to have the options to have, a partner who's bought the major part of the practice and who will essentially, take the entire practice when you're ready to let go of it. How does that feel? What does that mentally do for you when you cross that line?
Well, it's been a fantastic stress relief in many aspects, in terms of not just the financial, but the time that it frees. I'm not in the administrative side of things as much anymore. I'm not the QuickBooks guy and the accountant at night paying the bills and writing the checks, as my wife can attest to. I have more time at home. I have more time to exercise, have more time with family and friends. We have autonomy with our schedules still. We have alternative investments that are starting to put money into our mailbox every month. So I'm sitting here, instead of in my practice with my staff back in Florida, I'm here in Colorado at Lake Tahoe, enjoying a week vacation, something we never did in 29 years so much, except for maybe long weekends, because I couldn't be away from the practice. I couldn't be away from the patients. I couldn't be away from the staff without everybody's income going to zero. So now we have that freedom to be a little more balanced in our time, which allows us to work on health and relationships and time, freedom, vacations, things like that. So it's been fantastic. Like I said, the support we've had with MB2 has been fantastic. The freedom that they've allowed has been fantastic. And then the education that we've developed with Freedom Founders over the past just over a year now is amazing. Joy and I have conversations now that we wouldn't have recognized a year ago when it comes to the terms, the glossary that comes with alternative investing, in real estate, and knowing the difference between a net operating income and a cap rate, and how to evaluate a property, or how to evaluate a real estate investment, or even knowing what the market's doing from the outside. So I don't worry as much as where the stock market is each day either. Something I still track, but it's nothing that I lose sleep over like I probably did for decades.
So what you're saying is that you took a very conventional path earlier in your career, disciplined, live prudently, save money, put it into investments, 401ks, as you said, very very heavily focused there. But even in doing that, and with a good mentor that you had such a privilege of starting out your career with, you still had some sleepless nights. Is that just because of what we typically know, that the market can be very cyclical? I mean, you went through 2008. Was there any part of that caused you some concern, or was it just generally not feeling like you're in control?
Definitely the control factor, and we were fortunate being a lean and mean practice in 2008. We did very well coming through that tough event for many, many people. We saw friends and family get in big trouble with overextension on real estate investments, and looking for big opportunities that saw it suddenly popped. We saw other practices that were built, maybe a cosmetic focus or more elective procedures, that had a big pullback when it came to their clientele and what the needs were versus the wants for their clients. And so, we've been through many of those cycles at this point when it comes to the business world. And then, seeing what COVID did as well. And then just seeing I guess you would call it correlation. So, you, looking at mutual funds or stocks, you can find something that has a good fundamental, good PE ratio, looks solid, but it seems like there's so much correlation in the market that all the ships rise and fall together when the big events come up. And I saw it even in my partner, my mentor, as he was retiring. There was an event, probably the dot-com bubble in 2000, that he lost a significant portion at a time that he was about to retire. And, a lot of times the advice, well, just write it out. There's enough time that'll correct, and in the long run, you'll win in the standard model. But, if you're sitting right at the cusp of retirement, that doesn't pan out so well. So I've even had that experience looking through his eyes to know better that there's something out there. And so we've worked on knowing what our burn rate is. We live a comfortable life, and now we get to do things that we want to do. We've gotten the kids through college and got the empty nest. And so we've been able to look at our investment alternatives and, meet or exceed what we need for life, and know that accumulation that we have has the potential to not be depleted if we manage our risk well enough and do our due diligence in the type of investments that we work with. And so that's where Freedom Founders, again, has come together so well as a community to provide the support and the education and the teamwork that we work on, the due diligence and evaluating the deals. And we understand completely that seems like some people don't understand this, that Freedom Founders is not about giving investment advice. It's only in providing education and networking and collaboration with other like-minded people. That's the big point, and that is what has done so well for us.
You mentioned earlier some of the conversations that the two of you were having, not just conversations with other people, but the two of you are having, that has made you feel, again, more confident, secure. Enlighten us a little bit, because I find many times, and this is not unusual as we go through life, is that there's usually a divide and conquer aspect to our marriage partnerships, right? Especially as we're raising family, and that doesn't mean one or the other is the only breadwinner. There can be two breadwinners, but we've got children to nurture and take through, and a lot of times there's just there's a point where there's a division. And it's like, okay, you've got that. I'm just speaking for you. Like, John, you've got this. You're good at the practice, and Joy will say, I'll take care of all this. However you guys split up, we all do that. Was my point. But in doing that, many times we don't have those conversations that maybe we had when we were really young, right? We were, I remember keeping an analog little budget thing when I was, first out of school and married, and, just writing everything down, like, what are we spending, right? And we were blessed with able to make, above average income. So I'm not saying that you get away from that completely, but bring us back to what kind of conversations, you were having. And again, were these conversations prompted by your looking at the transition plan that you've now, run into? How did that come about?
Well, we definitely start off, again, old fashioned. We had the envelope system at one point. Also, for many years, even early into my practice, we've always been a one income family. So Joy had the time to focus on raising the children, and I had the time and focus to working on 1 to 2 practices, but they were both very much full-time jobs. And so
meaning that I worked while he was in dental school and college. So I got the perspective of what it meant to, be the sole provider. Yes. So I think that gives me a respect for what he's done for the last 30 plus years as well. But I think also because we met so young. I mean, we've been together now for 41 years. So we've kind of grown up together. And the money, even no matter who made it, him or I, it's always been our money. I don't think it's ever been his money, my money, anything like that. I know a lot of people do that. We don't do that. But I think as far as what I knew about what was going on, I mean, I paid all the bills, the home bills. I did take care of everything at home, everything with the kids. I wasn't really involved in the practice that much, except for the fun stuff like parties or whatever. But,
by choice, yes.
And that was by choice, deliberately. We did not want that. And so I guess, he had a lot of stresses that I didn't know about with the practice. And keeping the funding going. And he did most of the investing. I probably knew of it, but not really understood much of it. I knew that he was doing it and he was going to take care of it, and I was secure in that. But I think that my, understanding of retirement, and his too, probably until recently, was just what we had seen, which was that when it comes time to retire, you cut back on your lifestyle. You get a smaller house, you maybe go to one car. Whatever it takes to live in your means, which we would always want to do and always have done. And so it was a very new thought, when he started talking about Freedom Founders and, well, hey, you know what? There's an alternative here that maybe you can still retire and the lifestyle's still the same. And that was very interesting to me. So.
Joy, do you enjoy now having some of these conversations, being more involved in the various investments?
I mean, yeah, it's fun. I mean, again, I've heard other members say it's kind of like a game for them or whatever, but it's definitely something to do together. It gives both of us another purpose, especially, I have a lot more time now, with the kids out of the house. So I definitely have more time to think about these things and discuss them. And I think it's great because, you don't want to be in the dark about any of this. If, one or the other of you, when you're not there, then you don't know what's going on. So I want to know what's going on, and it's great.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed being able to have, meaningful conversations about our finances and about understanding our options, and always making it, a joint discussion of, where do we want to invest, and, what do we think about these different options or service providers. And so to have intelligent conversations there and to be engaged on that has been fun. It's been productive. It's been, building part of our relationship as well. So all wins.
The world of what we term alternative investments is very different than the conventional or default model of investing on Wall Street. And I'm not saying being disciplined and putting money on Wall Street is a bad thing at all, but I think you said it well, is that you wanted some non-correlation. You wanted to look at diversifying and have some dislocation amongst the different markets, I should say, amongst the different markets. And I believe that people like you that we attract to having the ability to gain the understanding, gain the education, the relationships, to see where their options are in placing certain investment buckets or allocations in different places that can offset turbulence in other areas. And we know there's no safe investment. Even putting money in a traditional savings account or a CD, too much of it there, we know that the ravages of inflation are going to cause that to diminish. So there's no safe place per se, but we all have to make our own decisions based on our goals, our risk tolerance, and how much we're willing and desire to, I say, just be in charge, be an advocate for your own financial future. And that doesn't mean you don't have other people who give you guidance in various areas. I think that's still important, but my whole goal in Freedom Founders is to help our members like you to gain that confidence that you can have those discussions with whomever is assisting you, whether you're in the financial markets or you're in alternatives, to have those discussions and feel good that you have the basis to make decisions and not just have to abdicate to somebody else and hope that they're looking at a wide enough berth of diversification to help you in this case navigate the next decades of your life, post active income. So how would you, John, how would you define alternative investments?
Well, my understanding is it's anything beyond the traditional, which is going to be the stock and bond portfolio or savings or the whatever goes under your mattress or however much gold you may have stashed in under the fireplace. So it's going to be anything from real estate, which is a huge world of syndications or funds or REITs or all sorts of flavors there. It could involve things like storage facilities. It could involve it could also involve precious metals in different ways, or oil futures and drilling. It could involve so many other things. And then what's also opened our eyes is the lending component and looking at our capital stack of not just equities, but the lending above, the cash and treasuries to be able to participate in that, which allows a huge pivot so that wherever the marketplace is economically, up or down, sideways, you have options. You can go into lending options more and cut back on the equity side, or you can go full force into the equity side when the conditions are right. And to kind of knowing, what's coming, looking ahead, seeing when to pivot, having the advice of the community and fellow Freedom Founders members to be able to, be cohesive in seeking advice on those decisions, but yet knowing we have full control and we're the ones ultimately making the call. We personally get to interview the service providers, those people that are out there providing the options when it comes to real estate investments or lending funds or whatever they are. We've had lunch with them, we've had dinner with them, we've had phone conversations with them. We can pick up the phone and ask them a hard question about, what do you do if this situation happens? What happens if a tornado hits the subdivision that you're halfway through construction? What happens if the interest rates go up 2%? What situation would cause us to lose some or all of our money in your investment options? So we have that kind of access and conversation all the time.
You've got adult children, a son and daughter, who are successful in their own right, but maybe even beyond our own children. What advice would you give to the generations that are coming up, whether they want to go into professional practice like we did, or just whatever their career moves? What overall general advice would you be giving to those today that are looking ahead? As we know that many are coming out of school, whether it's college or graduate school, carrying much more debt than we did. That's a barrier to getting ahead in life. Many young people cannot afford homes today because the rapid price increase that we've had over the last number of years, and then we have the interest rates on top of that make it almost exclusive for many to get started. What advice would you give to young people?
Well, we were kind of talking about this earlier, that I think it's an important part of our story is for many reasons. One was that we never had a dual income. Another was that, John's income did not get to a great level till maybe 30 years old or more, which is kind of older than a lot of people. We didn't start 401ks at age 22 like our son might have. So, a lot of these things we felt like we were always behind a little bit the norm, as far as getting started on things, just because of the extended education and because of life, I guess, too. We had 2 young kids. Everything kind of hit all at once for us. So I think that we started relatively late, on all of this. So I would say encourage all of those that are out there that may have some big debts or think they're starting late, that it's never too late. There's always, you always have to move forward.
Yeah, I agree. This generation, specifically, those dentists and young dentists and dental students out there, they're looking at, something that's essentially almost 10 times the debt that I came out of school with. And I thought it was a struggle to pay that off. So I definitely have a heartfelt for them in that situation. But just sticking to the basics of knowing that you've got to live below your means, you've got to put money away, you've got to pay yourself first, you've got to get out of debt before you can start spending extravagantly. You've got to look for opportunities even when you're young. And I've been so impressed with how many people are able to do this, that you can start building those assets in your portfolio beyond cash or stock that can be tangible, that can be investments for the long-term, things that start giving you actual mailbox money or cash flow. And it doesn't take a whole lot to get to that point early. But what it does take is an education. And the thing that this generation has that I didn't have as much was the internet, and with podcasts and with resources literally at your fingertips and on your phone to start understanding and finding out, how do you go beyond Wall Street if you prefer, or to in addition to, once you start developing some funds, to deploying those and to getting them out working for you, and ultimately getting to the point where you've worked so hard for your money that your money actually starts working for you. And to know that early and to be, investigating those avenues early, and, again, living beneath your means or below your means, that's my advice. And I've seen it done. I know people can do it. We have people much younger than us that have gone through that path and have done so well. And like I said, we feel like we're a little bit late to the game, but we were able to catch up, and we've got such a fantastic situation now. Thanks to seeking that education and seeking those opportunities and taking those opportunities when they present themselves.
Great advice and insights from both of you. Thank you for that. Well, let's conclude with this. I know that faith, family, relationships, time, health, opportunity to travel, as you're doing right now, are all important to you. As you continue to transition the next several years, what's next for John and Joy? What do you see? I think that's always fun for people to hear. And when you're at a point where you are right now, where you have the optionality to do things the way you want to do them, not feel so constrained as we do during our career lives. What's next for you guys?
Well, the next has been, having some of that time freedom now that we've got the financial freedom. So I'm working 3 days a week instead of 4 days a week. I'll probably be just as productive with the 3 days than the 4. That'll open up options for associateships at some point as well, as time permits and as desire occurs. We're here on vacation for a week, which we've never had before, and we didn't skimp on amenities or options, so we're living it up that way and spending our kids' inheritance. Sorry, guys. We've got time for family and friends that we've been doing more than ever. Our parents, it's been fantastic to be able to spend more time with them, get out and do a lot of biking, seeing the sights. And I don't know, Joy, what do you think?
I hadn't really thought that far ahead. I feel like that it's kind of all been unfolding just day by day for us, at least since starting Freedom Founders. There's been so many changes and things to look forward to, but I think we're kind of just trying it out. Like we sold a vacation home because we thought that would, we were paying X amount of dollars per month for that costing us. And then with the education with Freedom Founders, we're like, oh, this could be making us X amount of dollars per month. So let's try that. So we did that, and we haven't reinvested it in anything as far as a home because we're kind of just trying it out, see if we like having more freedom just to rent when you go somewhere. Or, and again, I don't know. Maybe we get one in the future. Maybe we don't. I think that we're just kind of going day by day. And the nice thing is, like you said before, we have options now. We have options for everything, literally, for everything. So that's good.
Well, I will not be surprised to see the two of you out on the pickleball circuit at some point. I know
I haven't gotten him out there yet.
Well, Joy, you've been the one that's been pushing that, but I think John's got it in him to do that. We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
there.
I think some lessons are going to be in order to get up to speed to even.
Yeah, I'm just afraid he'll break his arm or something.
Step by step.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, but no, it's all been it's been great. We've enjoyed the education and the ride all the way through. We just probably the only regret is not doing it sooner.
That's exactly. I've heard that more than once. The only regrets were to have not done it sooner.
Well, we can all have those regrets about certain things in life, but as long as we have another day, weeks, months, possibly years to live, there's no time like starting those new iterations of our life today. And I think that's what you brought to our conversation today is that there's always a path forward, no matter where you are in your career, family path. But finding good people. You talked about your first mentorship with Bill Hutchinson. You drove right into that, John. And again, finding good people can serve as guides, advisors, whether formal, informal, mentors, coaches. I just think finding those people is a great way to help each one of us, in this case, the two of you, to determine what's right for you, and you've certainly done that. So I hopefully you don't feel like you have regrets, because I think you have so much in the future, and I'm going to be having fun watching you pursue the fun and the goals that you've done so well to set yourself up for.
Well, I think that the future also is just, even though I can't define it, it somehow has more clarity because we have these options to do whatever we want to do, and just and
Definitely.
control over it, I guess. I think we're back to control. So before it was just like, let's see where the money lands, but now we feel like we can drive the ship a little bit better and control whatever we want for the future, whatever that is.
Definitely. Thank you so much, David and Freedom Founders, for what you guys have done and helping us get to this point.
Well, we appreciate the two of you. You are you're solid members, and you really walk the talk. And I think in the shared values that we have, and I really appreciate the two of you. So thank you for spending your time today with us.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.